What is going on, everybody? Paul here, coming at you with a crypto coffee update. You know, I got the news, conferences, events, all the stuff you guys want to see, along with my nice cup of coffee. This time I got a sloth running team. Can we just sleep instead? No, we can't, because we got news we got to cover. Join me for that simultaneous sip. All right, dude. So let's go ahead and roll into the news. Wanted to show you guys how kind of we grab up news here on Cryptide. Quick 1 minute. Just by going to Crypto Panic, you can see here all the news and events just from the top all the way down the page, just in the last hour. Mostly stuff like price analysis, old news that gets rehashed, various tweets and that sort of thing. But you get some great news kind of cycled in there. But with that said, for a quick view, I like to go to trending, hit show more. And that gives me all the news that has been upvoted heavily or downvoted heavily, whichever, has a lot of important tags, maybe comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, that sort of thing. But it's still not a perfect system. It could be a little clunky from time to time, just because your eye is naturally drawn to the color-coded things, so you're more likely to vote on those, thereby creating a higher concentration of votes on each article. So while that's neither here nor there, let's go ahead and examine some of these. And you can see, again, it's mostly is Bitcoin Cash doom, speculation, guy from Ethereum saying blockchain is helping to create more wealth. Of course, Coinbase effect. Oh, if something gets listed on Coinbase, the price goes up. Whoa, I had no idea. So yeah, like I said, not just being a little facetious here, just simply because I'm trying to drive home. You got good news days, you got bad news days. Not that the news is good or bad, just in terms of how much news is coming out and its validity and applicability to the wider crypto space as a whole. And the reason why we have these kind of days is because we're not looking here at Cryptide as at one specific project or one type of project. We're really looking at the whole space, the entire financial markets as well, with a specific focus on crypto. And because of that, we don't have an echo chamber where any news is good news so long as it supports X, Y, or Z. We're just looking at it as objective as possible, and you guys help with that a lot. So thank you so much for that. Just want to give you guys a shout out. You share great information, great sources, and collaboration is the best way to ensure corroboration and make sure those sources are golden. So spend enough of the time on that. We're 2 minutes in. Let's go ahead and get into the news of the day, of which there's not that much, again, simply because of what we just saw at Crypto Panic. We get a lot of news from there, but we do have some other sources. I think the next Crypto Coffee update, the one after that, sometime this year, we'll go ahead and dig into some of the other aggregation sources we use to get an idea of what's happening in the wider financial markets. But for now, let's jump into what we have. South Korea, we were just talking about them, I think last Crypto Coffee update, about the formalities they're trying to impose on ICOs and crypto exchanges as a whole. And for good reason. It looks like PureBit, which is a small crypto exchange in South Korea, they take away, and I dislike that, they didn't take it away, they didn't confiscate it. They actually stole it illegally. That's not okay. But in a way, what I like about this is it kind of gives a pause for thought. Why the phrasing "take away"? Well, because in reality, if it's not your private keys, it's not your crypto. So in a way, I think Christine Masters maybe used this as a kind of subversive way to get individuals thinking about, well, I guess they could take it away because it's not really mine if I don't own the private keys. So cheers to Christine. Don't know if that was intentional or not, but after a pause for thought, it gets you thinking about your own security and safety in the ecosystem. So I'm all for that. Really not too much more at this stage to jump into and take a look at. Just wanted to drive home that, yes, South Korea is looking to formalize the regulation. Yes, this is something that happened on the heels of that. Yes, if you don't own the private keys, you do not own the crypto. And yeah, yes, individuals are going to try and find a way around these regulations, even if they are just ardently in place for their own protection, allegedly. Nonetheless, some people, whether they're trying to avoid taxes, whether they're doing illegal money laundering, whether they just don't want to go with the KYC thing for personal ideological reasons, these individuals will try and circumnavigate the existing framework and regulations, and that puts them at potentially higher risk. So always do your own research. Going to put that in the description along with everything else we're looking at. And hopping over the channel over to China. China's freaking out. That's plain to see for anyone who's been following them. This is a little dated from the 9th, so 3 or 4 days ago, roughly, depending on what time zone you're in. But yeah, China's a pet project of mine. I find them really interesting. They do not function anything at all like the West. They put on a nice face about it, but they function completely differently, and it's really interesting to see, and it can get them into some big pickles historically. At least that's the precedent, and it looks like they're making themselves one of the biggest pickles that human history has ever seen, just due to their housing market. Now, this goes specifically into some other financial metrics, talking about just the Chinese economy and its health as a whole, where some of the vectors of I guess, some of the vectors of attack or weakness, I guess, rather than attack. Well, maybe attack with a trade war, let's be honest, but yeah, vectors of weakness in the Chinese economy. And suffice to say, there are many of them, but one thing that isn't explored in this article specifically, that maybe I'll put below in the description, maybe we can open up on it next time, is the fact that 75% of the average Chinese citizen's portfolio is held up in retail. That's in contrast to 24% here in the United States, meaning that with 50 million apartments already empty, that could potentially be offloaded onto the Chinese market in times of economic duress. Well, that could cause even further collapse of housing prices, again, 74% of which comprise the average Chinese investor's portfolio, leading to a cascading downward effect. What comes up must come down eventually if artificially inflated, and that can cause a hell of a time when it inevitably occurs. And of course, that is supported by a lot of these other metrics that we're looking at. So trying to get a holistic analysis here, looking at the wider Chinese market, wider global market, and foreign markets, such as the European Union and the United States, and how the trade war and European loans and that sort of thing will affect China as a whole, because realistically, this could be the hard landing that kicks off another global recession similar to 2008. Now, not trying to spread FUD, neither here nor there, just looking at the facts, looking at the information. And let me know what you guys think of this below in the comments. Seriously, corroboration and collaboration, they go hand in hand, as said previously. So moving right along, 20% of British population see Bitcoin as an inevitability. That's huge. On top of that, 96%, which you see, or 93% of individuals say that they know what Bitcoin is, which is major. You go back 3, even 5 years, that number would assumingly be far, far, far lower, helping to reinforce how quickly this supermajority of individuals who know what this is occurred. So that's really great. Not only that, men are 3 times more likely to feel that they understand how Bitcoin works when compared to women, whether that be something that just reflects the gender bias that is indeed present in crypto, or maybe that's just as a married man, sometimes we are a little bit hard-headed and think we know best, when a lot of the times, we can do with some more information and taking a step back. And God bless women for being there to help us out with that. But whether it's that, or whether it's truly just the gender bias that does exist in crypto, is really interesting to see that come forth and express itself statistically in this survey. So also we already covered that. As common as cash or card. That's what I found really interesting as well. So big expectations for Bitcoin in the future, and I think that's partially because it could be many things to many people. It could be peer-to-peer electronic cash, as seen in the white paper. It could be a store of value in the face of depreciating fiat assets, or it could simply be a way to circumvent things like, sanctions, like global sanctions. You can get money out or into the country with relative ease and not have to worry about all of the legal paperwork that goes along with that kind of thing. And that can really help a lot of people who are in some less than stellar situations when compared to us in the first world. So go ahead and moving on from there. Iran, speaking of sanctions, has completed a development of the Rial-supported digital currency. And this has been a huge initiative on the part of Iran. They knew these sanctions were coming, and they decided to roll this out as quickly with respect to efficiency and security as possible. You can see here the CBI contracted a company, an Iranian banking and payment solution provider that was founded in '93 to design and develop the nation's now digital rial. And a quote, he explained, "After getting Central Bank of Iran's approval, it will be used in the country's banking system. In the first phase, the blockchain banking infrastructure will be granted to Iranian commercial banks to use it as a token and payment instrument in transactions and banking settlement." So this is very similar, assumingly, to almost like the SWIFT system that exists for financial messaging. However, because this is all proprietary to Iran, it's not nearly assumingly as complicated, so it was able to be rolled out with comparative ease. Now, if the Iranian digital rial is to be used in global finance, perhaps there will have to be some kind of bridge systems built, but nonetheless, this is assumingly a step in the right direction, or it could be a step towards a more hardline control over the financial ecosystem of an already isolated nation. So what do you guys think? I want to get your 2 cents on this, because it could really go either way, given the precedent that we've seen from Iran and just from the global community in general. So let me know what you think of that. Interesting stuff. Next up, we got Singapore Exchange. They have successfully trialed a blockchain for tokenized asset settlement. Really similar to the Iran story, only it's in Singapore, less sanctions. They want to be a fintech city. The Singapore Exchange Limited, SGX, they partnered with MAS, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and tested and successfully saw a transfer of tokenized assets in the real world, which is really interesting. You can see the report dates all the way back. U.S. stock market, NASDAQ, Big Four consulting company, Deloitte, Singapore tech company, Anquan, major names. And this runs concurrent with what we've been talking about the whole time, guys. NASDAQ working with the Japanese firms. I believe it's the Japanese firms. Either way, I might have that wrong, but suffice to say there was 4 Japanese firms working with one major company. NASDAQ was working with another major blockchain company. You have Morgan Stanley saying that this is a new institutional asset class, which is huge. You have Bakkt coming in. You have what's the other one? Fidelity coming in. So the fact that these positive results are being achieved at this point in time, I don't think is particularly interesting, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on, as we're no doubt going to see more of these developments happening in greater concentration going forward as the fruits of these institutional efforts are beginning to take shape. So with that said, I guess that's it for the news. Like I said, not too much. Tried to go a bit more in depth instead of wide in terms of scope today. So let me know what you thought of that. I think we touched on some really great stuff. But before we are finished up for the day, we got to get into the happenings. So let's see what's going on with conferences for Monday, November 12th. We have MoneyLive Private Banking and Wealth Management 2018 happening in London. The Digital Commodities Summit happening as well in London. This time, part 2. The Blockchain Summit Dubai is kicking off in, well, where else? Dubai, of course. Scaling Blockchains happening in San Francisco. The Singapore Fintech Festival's kicking off in Singapore. And the Cardis 2018, which is the highbrow conference, the Smart Card Research and Advanced Application Conference, is happening in France. For November 13th, Tuesday, we have the Finance Magnates Network Blitz happening in London. The Internet of Things Build as well in London. The New York Family Office and High Net Worth Blockchain Conference happening in New York City. Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Conf 2018 in Malaysia, Belgrade ICO Summit happening in Serbia, and the Foundations and Practices of Security, or FPS 2018, another highbrow conference happening in Montreal. That's all we have for November 13th, Tuesday, and for this Crypto Coffee update. As I said previously, all the links below in the description. Got to do your own research. Corroboration is caring after all. And take a look at the B-list tokens. We have those below in the description as well. They're fine coins, some better than others, but just too much to talk about with respect to time. So with that in mind, much love, guys. This is Paul signing off. We are Cryptide, and remember, the tide is rising. Glub, glub.